Hi, everybody. Welcome to True Crime with Marv. I am Marv, the advocate for Tabitha Shuck Rains. I hope everyone is having a good day or evening. This is a pre-recorded video so that we can get more information out faster regarding Tabitha's case. Today, we're going to be reading the deposition of Michael Rains. I have Andrea here helping me. So here she comes.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, so this one is 96 pages. This is going to take...
Yes, ma'am.
So in the previous episode, you heard the statement of Michael Rains made on October 5th, 2002. And not a whole lot of information there. But now he's under oath, and this is the deposition. So we're going to be getting more information in this document. I'm just going to share my screen here real quick, just so you guys know. Okay, so these are actual documents that we are reading. I'm not going to show the whole thing as we read through them because there's some sensitive information that we do skip. So, Andrea, this is the state of Indiana, County of Tipton, State of Indiana versus Elizabeth Balser. And it is cause number 80C01. And it is the deposition of Michael Rains. Present at the deposition is J. Rich, Tipton County Prosecutor, Michael Rains, deponent, Bob Alden, attorney for Elizabeth Balser. And this took place at the prosecutor's office. So Andrea is going to read the parts of J. Rich and Bob Alden, and I will read the parts of Michael Rains. All right, let's get started because this one's going to take a while.
We're in the Tipton County Prosecutor's Office. Present in the room is Michael Rains, the deponent, J. Rich, Tipton County Prosecutor, and Bob Alden, who represents Elizabeth Balser. Mike, please raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Mike, you've given your address to the prosecutor today, and you live with who right now?
My mom, my sister, and my son.
And you said you are not working at this time, is that right?
Correct.
And the last time you had a job was?
Yes.
This is the one that skips the pages.
Oh, okay. So time out, everybody. So in this deposition, we do not have all the pages. So what you just heard was page 1. It then skips to page 4.
And then it skips every other page. No, wait a minute.
Nope, we have 5.
Nope. Yep,
6,
right. Okay.
7.
Right. Okay.
So I'm not sure what happened there, but we'll work through it. Okay, so page 4 starts with Michael Rains saying yes.
Okay, and what job did you take after March? I'm sorry.
After working at Marsh, I started work at Jiffy Lube in Carmel.
And you had that for until how long?
Until July that same year.
Okay, and then after Jiffy Lube, where?
Burnett Services.
What did you do there?
Auto work, pretty much. Same thing I did at Jiffy Lube, just change oil, transfer fluids.
And how long did you work there?
Worked up to the day Tabby disappeared. Went to work that next day, and then I didn't go back for a week. Then I went back in, and I told them I quit.
Okay, so you worked at Burnett's. Did you remember the day Tabby disappeared?
the 2nd, I believe, of October.
So you went to work on the 3rd?
I believe so.
What time did you go into work?
I was there, I think, at 7 or 8 in the morning. I was always there when it opened.
Okay, and you worked until what time?
1 o'clock. Yeah, 1 o'clock.
How much did you make?
$8 an hour.
So you were making about, you worked about 4 hours a day, 4.5 hours a day?
Except on Friday and Saturday when I worked all day.
Okay.
So I pulled in about 40 hours a week.
You were still getting 40 hours a week?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were making about $320 a week, taking home what?
I was pulling in about an even 300 if I got 4 hours of overtime.
So your average pay was about $300 a week. Were you getting paid weekly? Is your check each week?
Yeah.
How much was your rent?
I think it was $3. I only paid Mom $100 because she knew I didn't make enough, but I was supposed to pay her $300, but I only paid her $100.
You paid her $100 a month?
Yeah.
And what other expenses did you have?
Phone, gas, electric.
You had to pay your utilities?
Yeah, I tried to pay most of them. My mother helped me out a lot.
How much is that a month?
I don't know. I just gave her $100 a month, and if it didn't take care of it, she would ask for more.
All right, so you had to pay that. So that's $200. And then what else did you pay?
Food expenses, gas expenses, to and from work, to and from school, car, truck maintenance, oil changes, things like that.
How much was all that a month?
Uh,
We will go off record a minute. Okay, so you were trying to calculate where you were spending your money, and if you were spending $100 a month on rent, $100 a month on utilities, $160 a month on auto, gas, is that what you calculated? $40 a week?
yeah,
$100 a week on food, about $400. $3 a day for cigarettes, about $90 or $100. Is that right?
I think.
And did you have to pay for your car, or was it already paid for?
I had truck payments and insurance.
Lord. Go ahead.
I had truck payments and insurance, and I paid.
How much was your truck payment?
Truck was, I don't remember how much truck was, 100, 200?
That was me.
Oops.
100 or 200?
I think it was 2 something.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure on that.
All right.
But the insurance was $130.
$130 a month?
Yeah.
So you're basically eating up all your money each month. Is pretty tight, right?
Yep.
And now you say you were going to school as well. Is that right? What kind of school were you going to?
It was a inaudible school, Lincoln Technical Institute.
Where is that located?
Indianapolis.
Where about?
16th Street and Stadium, or inaudible, or something.
What were you training to be?
Auto technician.
How long a course is that?
Between, I think it was 13, 16 months, something like that.
How much did you have to pay for it?
$25 a month until you get done, and then you pay $80 a month, so around 17 grand after I get done paying for it.
$25 a month?
Yes, it was just a monthly thing.
And then when you got finished, you paid how much?
$80 a month.
Until you paid $17,000?
Right. So it was a grand total of 17,000.
Right. So you were only out $25 a month.
Correct.
So did you go through the summer?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I went up until October.
Okay. So what was the last day you went to school?
I believe I went back on the 9th or 10th. Then I didn't go back again.
When was the day before? So you continued to go all the way up until.
No, the 3rd. I went and left early, and then I didn't go back until the 9th or 10th. And then after that day, I didn't go back.
Why not?
Well, it's the day of the investigation. Gary Stout would always call me about 1 o'clock about the time I needed to leave to go to school on time. And so I just quit going because I wouldn't make it there on time. And after I showed up late 4 times, they withdrawed me from my class anyway.
Did you tell him you had a problem with school?
Yeah, I told him, and he was like, well, I'll try to make it earlier. But he kept calling me at 1 o'clock. And he was like, I need to talk to you. I would have been more than happy to come in at 8 in the morning.
Right. Were you and Tabby having problems like before her disappearance?
Not right before, but a few months prior we did, but not right before.
What was the argument about?
It was just financial stress, I mean.
Anything else besides financial stress?
We didn't fight about anything else, but there was a girlfriend back in August. She didn't know about it as far as I know. But anything else, that's all I know. That we had problems was with financial stress.
So you had a girlfriend that she didn't know about in Indianapolis,
Yeah, back in August.
but she never said anything to you about it.
No, she didn't know about it as far as I know.
She never said one word to you about it.
No.
All right. What was her name?
Holly Cave.
Was Holly in your class?
Every so often she was our class. Every so often she was our classes, went monthly.
Is that where you met her at Lincoln Tech?
Uh-huh.
And did you continue to see her all the way up until you stopped going to school?
No, I seen her in August, and then I didn't go and see her really through September. And then I talked to her a little bit more in the beginning of October because the whole school knew about it.
Knew about what?
Knew about Tabby's death because it was on the news and all that. And they seen it on the news and knew me, and they asked me if she was my wife. And I was like, yeah. So everybody knew, everybody wanted to talk to me to see how I felt.
Why did you stop seeing Holly Cave?
Because I knew it was wrong and I felt really bad.
And did you tell Holly that?
Yeah, I told her that. Holly wanted me to leave Tabby and be with her. And I was like, well, I can't do that. I need to be with her and not you. And we went our separate ways.
How old is Holly?
22 or 23.
Okay. There is some innuendos, rumors, or whatever around that Tabby was with Michael or was with Kyle Neff a lot. That not just with her as a friend, but also had sexual relations with him. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. I've heard those same rumors and stuff. As far as I know, that they hung out a lot just as friends, just talking, going out and riding on his crotch rocket, or going and doing something because I was either at work or at school, every day but Sunday, really. So,
Well, they were doing some cocaine together too, weren't they?
as far as I know, no. Kyle let both me and Tabby try. And when he asked me if I wanted to try, and I was like, I will, but if I don't like it, don't ask me again. I tried it. I told him I didn't like it, and he never asked me again. I asked him to do the same thing with Tabby. If she says no, and as far as I know, she didn't really like it.
What date was that you guys tried it?
I want to say July. That sounds about right.
Was Amanda there too?
No, she wasn't. She wasn't. She was either with her mom shopping or she was at work. I'm not really sure, but she wasn't there.
Was Amanda and Tabby's issue about they didn't want to see each other?
I don't really know
Why wouldn't you know?
because I didn't figure to ask.
Why not?
When two girls are fighting, I stay out of it, you know?
Well, you were friends with Kyle,
Well, yeah.
so
If me and Kyle, we would still keep up friendly terms. But I didn't want to upset Tabby by going and talking to them, you know? If she was mad at one or two of them, then until they settled it, I wasn't going to do anything because I didn't want to make it look like I wasn't on her side.
well, you didn't have to go to them. You could have just asked Tabby, what's the problem?
I didn't feel the need to.
You didn't feel the need to ask Tabby why she and Amanda were having a problem?
I didn't.
Even though you guys were together on a regular basis for a long time.
I figured she gets mad at me for stupid shit, so I just figured it was something stupid. So there isn't any reason to be mad. And then in a week or something, it'll all be fixed.
Tabby tell you about the time she saw Amanda at the Marsh store?
No, my mom told me about it.
Weren't you there with her?
No, my mom was.
Your mother was at the Marsh store.
Yes.
And Tabby ever mention anything to you about that?
No, she did not.
Did you hear what it was about?
My mom told me about all I can remember is that they met. It said something about Kyle in trouble or something. I can't remember. I would have to have her tell me again. I don't even know what it was about. Tabby never told me, and I didn't hear about it until Tabby disappeared.
All right. So here you are having an affair with a girl that Tabby doesn't know anything about. And here Tabby is seeing Neff, and you don't know about that, other than you thought your relationship was pretty good.
At the time she disappeared, it was excellent.
Okay.
We were back to like we were the first months we were dating.
What if, like, even 2 weeks before that, she was doing cocaine with Neff?
I didn't know.
I mean, so she was acting like everything was rosy and
Yeah.
that was never an issue with you, or not? That was never an issue with you, or not jealous at all about Neff in any way whatsoever, right?
As far as I know, nothing happened between them, so I never had a reason to be jealous.
Well, just the fact that they were together all the time, I mean, inaudible.
Oh no. I mean, friends are friends. I don't stand in the way of friends, regardless whether it's guy-girl friendship or guy-guy friendship or a girl-girl friendship. You know, friends are friends. If you want to be with your friends, well, I'm not there, so be it.
So anyway, let's talk about October the 2nd. You got up that morning, you went to work, right?
Right.
You got home at what time?
About 10:45, between 10:30 and 11 at night.
But I'm talking about work, not school.
Yeah.
You get off work at 10:45 at night?
No, I get off work and I go to school.
Right. So that day you got off work at what time?
Yeah, that was the day I went home and took Tabby to GED classes. So I got off work about 1 o'clock, actually. I asked to leave early, so it was about 12:45. And I left and got to Tipton and took Tabby to her GED class.
Let's talk about when you got home. You got home at 12:45, and was Tabby up and ready to go to GED?
She was up front waiting on me. or she was standing in my mom's door waiting on me. I didn't even have to get out of the truck.
Did anybody say anything to you that somebody had called to wake her up that morning?
No, she just called me and asked me if I had time to run her to GED class.
What time did she call you?
Maybe noon or 12:15.
At this time, what were Drake's habits?
What do you mean?
As far as sleeping, napping, do you know?
He had about 2, maybe 3 naps a day.
When did he get up?
What time did he get up? 6:30 or 7.
When did he take his first nap?
I'm not really sure. I would be gone by then.
Did he take a morning nap?
Probably, yeah. Probably only stayed up a couple hours.
Then maybe he was back down about 9 or so?
Something like that, probably.
Do you have any idea how long he slept?
Not really. The days I was home at the time, it wasn't long enough for me to catch his schedule. I mean, I was gone 6 or 7 days a week. And usually on the 7th, I was out mowing the yard or doing yard work, something like that.
Did your mother say anything to you about Tabby dropping Drake off at her house the morning for the nap?
That morning? No.
Do you know anything about Tabby getting into the car with Elizabeth Balser that morning?
No.
You ever hear that from anybody?
No, I didn't hear that she got in the car with Liz anytime.
Do you know that Liz Balser was over at your house the night before?
I think I did, but I'm not really sure at this point in time.
You don't know whether someone told you or whether you actually knew it is that what you mean?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure whether someone told me she was there or if Tabby was the one that told me that the night before she disappeared. I'm not exactly sure.
Do you know if Liz Balser has ever been over to your house before?
Yes, she has.
And did you know about that?
Yeah.
Did Tabby tell you why she was over there?
Well, the 2 or 3 times that I know she was over there was to get high with me.
Did Tabby smoke marijuana on a pretty regular basis?
Wouldn't say regular basis. If we could, we would. But we usually didn't at home. We would wait until we both had a free day and then go somewhere, most likely Tom's. That way we were around Drake.
So how often would that happen?
Well, with me around, luckily, if it was twice a month.
So for the month or 2 months that you didn't see Kyle and Amanda, you guys never smoked any marijuana?
I didn't. Tabby got a hold of 1 joint that I know of. But other than that, no.
So is the only time you know about Tabby having any drugs for, say, 2 months before she disappeared was one time?
Yeah.
If she had marijuana more than that, do you think she would have told you about it?
If she had it, she would tell me about it. If she didn't have it, she probably wouldn't.
When was Liz over at your house 3 or 4 times?
Throughout that year, from the time we moved in to probably the beginning of August, I don't know, once every other month, something like that. Whenever she was in town that I knew of, if I seen her and I knew she had weed, I'd ask her to come over if she had some. But it was only 2 or 3 times.
Did she just give it to you? If she had it, just let you smoke hers?
If she had it, she already had 1 roll. She just smoked that with me because the way I knew her was through my friends. And because she was a really good friend with my friends, she would do something like that with me.
Did you ever buy weed from her, or did she basically give it to you?
No, I never bought weed from anybody. I never had to buy it. If someone had it, inaudible.
All right. So anyway, you get home at 12:45 and she was out waiting. She called you at noon. Did your mother ever say anything to you? Your mother has never said anything to you about the fact that she dropped Drake off that morning.
That morning, no. Mom was inside holding Drake when Tabby left, when Tabby walked out the door.
You know that Tabby would take Drake if nobody was going to be home. Tabby was going to take Drake over to your mother's house.
Right?
For school and whatever, or if you guys went over to Neff's or Amanda's, right?
Yeah, we would either leave him with my mom or her mom. That way he wasn't around.
Anybody else?
Not that I'm aware of. I think Jamie Hamilton might have babysat him once. It was mainly the two grandmothers that were like our weekend babysitters if we wanted to go out and do something.
Did you ever take Drake in the car with you?
Yeah, my mom's truck.
Did you have a car seat?
Yeah.
Would you or Tabby ever take Drake in an automobile without him being in a car seat?
No.
Where did you keep the car seat?
For a while, we didn't actually have one. Mom had one. My truck was too dang small, and I was gone all the time, so it was pointless for me to even have one.
I'm talking about the week before Tabby disappeared.
We had a stroller with a car seat, and that was kept either in the house or truck, because if we went somewhere, we would take my mom's truck, and we'd just strap him in and carry him out and then carry him back in.
Okay, on October the 2nd, let me be more specific. On October the 2nd, where was the stroller and the car seat?
I'm not for sure. Probably in the house.
Would your mother know the answer to that question?
She might. She possibly would know that answer better than I would.
All right, so you get home and you take her to GED class, and was she pretty excited about going to go to these classes?
Yeah, she was very excited to be going.
And do you know the time was that she was supposed to be at the classes?
She had to be there about 1 o'clock, and she told me it got done about 3 or something. I don't really know.
How was she going to get home?
She said she would find a ride with a girl that she knew that was going to GED classes at the same place and same time.
What was her name?
I want to say it was Jamie Hamilton, but I don't believe that would be correct. It could be. It could have very well been Jamie, but I can't say for sure.
But she said she was going to find a ride home.
Yeah, she said she would find a ride home, or if she couldn't, she would just walk.
So you went on to school and you got home what time?
Between 10:30 and 11.
And you got home, what did you do?
I went inside, dropped off whatever I had in my hands, left, went around to my mom's and asked her where Tabby was. And she told me that Tabby had told her that Amanda had called her and said that her grandmother was in the hospital having surgery and that she might possibly die and that she wanted her to be there.
Now, did your mother definitely had called her, or that it was just Amanda's mother that had called her inaudible?
I'm not sure if it was Amanda that called her or if it was Kyle that called her, but Mom said it was one of them two that called.
And so then after
she told me where Tabby was, I went back home, took a shower, and went back up to my mom's. And I don't believe I slept on the couch that night. Matter of fact, I believe I went, after I stayed up there on the computer till 11:30, maybe 12, I went back to my house and went to sleep.
So you went to school, you got home at 10:45, you checked to see where Tabby was. Tabby said she was at the hospital. You went back to your apartment, you took a shower, and then you went back to your mother's to work on the computer.
Yeah, on the internet.
What time did you get back to your mother's?
About 11:05.
Why do you say that?
Why do I say that? Because I was only up there the first time long enough to ask where Tabby was, which took all of 5 minutes. Then it would probably be about 10:50 by then. Then it would take me about 10 minutes in the shower, about 11 by then, and getting dressed and back up there would take me another 5 minutes.
You didn't watch TV or anything?
Not while I was back at my place.
Okay, so your mother knows you were back at her place at 11:05.
Yeah, she knows I was back there shortly after 11.
Okay, so you stayed on the computer until 11:30, and then what?
It was probably either 11:30 or 12, and during the time I was on the computer, I was also watching cartoons, and then afterward I went home and went to bed.
And what cartoon comes on at 11:30 at night?
I believe it was Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball, one of the two.
Dragon, spell the second one. Bull or ball?
Ball.
Ball?
Uh-huh.
What channel does that come on?
Channel 45, Cartoon Network.
And do you watch that on a regular basis?
I try to get home in time to watch it. Get home in time, take a shower, relax for a minute, get something to eat, and then watch it.
Does it come on at 11:30 every night?
I believe it did. It doesn't anymore, but I believe it did.
Okay, then 12 o'clock comes and she's still not home, and so then what?
I just go to sleep.
Has Tabby ever been out all night without calling you and telling you where she was?
Without calling me and telling me? Yeah. But she left a note. If, she left a note before she left. And since she told my mom what she was doing, that qualifies as a note in our thoughts. So.
When else had she ever been out all night and left a note?
She stayed at Kyle and Amanda's with Amanda while Kyle was gone one night. She stayed at her mother's once or twice a night, all night, something like that. When she got with a group of her friends, they spent it at one of their houses and have like a girls' slumber party type thing. I mean, as long as I knew where she was. I didn't worry about her.
Okay, so now it's in the morning and you wake up, and then what?
Well, I get ready for work and I go to work. But before I go to work, I got up and see if Tabby was there.
Inaudible.
I went up to my mom's to see if Tabby had called or anything.
Okay.
I asked my mom if she had called her or got home yet, and she hadn't.
What time is this?
6:30, 7:30, between 6:30 and 7:30.
And what did your mother say?
That she hadn't called all night, hadn't come home all night, and she told me that if Tabby called or came home, she'd get a hold of me at that time.
Okay, so then what?
I went to work.
All right, and then what time were you supposed to get off work that day?
About the same time, about 1 o'clock.
Did you come home at 1 o'clock?
No, what I did that day, I had been getting calls at work from Mark Tate,
Tabby's father.
stepfather, and from my mom saying they didn't know where Tabby was and where she was.
What time did you get those calls?
Between 8 and noon. I can't really say which times each call was. My mother told me that she'd called Kyle and asked Kyle where Tabby was. And because of the story that Tabby had told my mom, then Kyle told her something completely different, and she was getting worried. So I stopped at Kyle's and I asked him if he had seen Tabby, and he was like, no, but if I do, I'll have her give you a call. So I thought, all right. So after I stopped at Kyle's, I went ahead and went to school.
And then so you're getting information that your mother's talked to Kyle and he's giving her some information that's different than Amanda's giving information different than what Tabby's originally said. So you said you stopped at Kyle's on the way home.
Yeah.
That was around 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And what happened when you stopped there?
Knocked on the door and they answered the door. I asked them where Tabby was. They said they didn't know. And I was like, all right. Well, if you see her, have her give me a call. And they were like, okay. And then I went to school.
Well, is that the only person that you asked? Do you know where Tabby is? They said no, so you just went to school?
I asked them if they wanted to smoke a joint after I got back from school, if I could get some.
Is that all you said to him?
I believe so.
You ever asked them anything, either one, anything about whether they saw her the night before?
Yeah, when I asked them where she was, my mom had told me that Tabby was with Amanda, and do you know where she is? And they were like, no. And Amanda was like, my grandmother had knee surgery, but it wasn't life threatening. And I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense. But if you see her, let me know or have her give me a call.
And then you just went on to school then?
Yeah.
And then what happened when you went on to school?
I was in the middle of taking a test when Mark called me and told me she still wasn't back and that I should go to the police station and file a missing persons report. So I left school. I got up and told my instructor that my wife had been missing for just short of a day and I needed to leave. And he was like, all right, you can make up your test tomorrow. So I left.
And that was in the afternoon?
Between 5 and 6.
What time does your school start?
At 2:15.
How long did you stay at school?
What?
How long did you stay at school?
That day or
just normally, what are your hours?
2:15 to 9:45.
So if Mark wouldn't have called, then you wouldn't have come to make a missing persons report?
I probably would have after I got home and realized she still hadn't turned up.
And what were you thinking when you left Kyle's house and headed out to school about Tabby's whereabouts?
I was just thinking it didn't make sense, but it was like it wasn't like Tabby to leave Drake for very long without calling and checking on him. So I figured I would hear from her real soon, you know?
Okay, so was there anything in your mind that she had given a story to your mother that was different than what Kyle and Amanda had said?
Can you clarify that for me?
Didn't Tabby tell your mother that Kyle or Amanda called and said that it was a life-threatening situation, that she was going to the hospital?
Yeah.
So the fact that Amanda and Kyle then said to you that they never said that is not an issue with you?
It didn't register at the time. It should have been.
You specifically did not. You'd ask Amanda about the business, about her grandmother and her surgery and this or that?
No, I didn't ask her about it. She just said it. And I told her Tabby said this. Do you know where she is? She said she'd be with you. So I figured you guys might know where she is now. They were like, no, blah, 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 and gave me the information about the grandma and what Kyle had been doing.
Okay, and did Kyle specifically, your testimony is today under oath, that Kyle specifically never said anything to you about whether he saw her that night, picked her up, dropped her off anywhere, or did anything?
No, he never said anything like that. I think he did.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. You're under oath.
I know.
But I want you to testify, but I want to give you a fair chance to.
You are actually by saying things that are helping me remember. You did say,
That's why it's very important if I ask you a question that you think through the question and make sure that you're giving me an accurate answer.
Right.
Because this is a deposition and you are definitely under oath here.
He did say something along the line.
So don't guess about things.
That he did something along the line, that he had seen her last night, that previous night, and that he had taken her up to VP. And in his words, he said to meet some dyke.
What did that mean to you?
What did that mean to me?
Uh-huh.
What do you mean?
So was Tabby a dyke?
No. We had talked about the possibility of like threesomes, but she wasn't really into the idea of girl thing. So I could say no, she wasn't a lesbian or a dyke or anything else you could think of to call her. When he said that, it went through my mind trying to figure out who she might be, where she might be, or who she might be with. I was like, who was it? Elizabeth Balser? He was like, yeah, but that name sounds familiar. I think that might be who it is. I was like, that's weird.
Are you sure? I don't want you making up any words here, okay? Are you positive that he said to you to meet some dyke, and then in your mind said, "Is that who it? Who is that? Elizabeth Balser?" And he said, "Yeah, something. Yeah, it may have been something like that."
Yeah.
So did he know Elizabeth Balser?
The way he made it sound to me, he didn't really know her.
Okay, this is Jay Rich. Does anyone need to go to the restroom or get a soda pop or anything? Tape stopped. Back to Mr. Alden. Okay, so you were saying, he said you were saying that Kyle was saying about you, said that he had taken her up to VP, meet some dyke, and then you said it went through your mind, and then you said, who was that? Elizabeth Balser. And then he said a response. Now, do you know exactly what he said?
In response to,
To you.
no, I don't know exactly what he said. He said it could very well be, I think. That's who she said it was. Um,
Okay, then my question was, did it sound like he knew who Elizabeth Balser was?
the way he sounded when he answered, it sounded as if he knew of her, but he didn't know her. That they weren't friends or acquaintances. They might have just met one day, and then he remembered that he had met her once, and
All right, had you ever seen the two of them together?
no, I hadn't.
And how close would you say you were to Kyle?
Me to Kyle,
Uh-huh.
we were friends.
All right, now I know you weren't around a lot because you were working in school for a period of time before this, but he never mentioned Elizabeth Balser's name to you ever, 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 anytime you were around him. Is that right?
That's correct.
About like she or I did this, or
No.
who did he hang around with?
What do you mean?
Well, just guys?
Just regular.
I mean, besides Tabby.
Well, after I'd say July that year, he wasn't me and Tabby. The only people that were around him were the people he bought drugs off of. I only know one of the people he did buy drugs off of from the time that me and Tabby started being friends and hanging out with Kyle and Amanda. It was pretty much just us four. But me and Tabby really didn't go off with anybody else and do like go bowling or shoot pool or watch movies or whatever with it. It was just fun. It was just us four for the length of time.
What length of time?
Somewhere about the summer of 2001 to somewhere around August of 2002.
All right, and so that was even before you guys got married?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Amanda, did you ever tell anybody that you knew that Amanda was jealous of Tabby?
What do you mean jealous?
Jealous for any reason of Tabby?
After Tabby disappeared, they asked me what they could have fought over, and I mentioned that Amanda probably got mad and probably a little jealous of Tabby riding with Kyle on his crotch rocket, because I remember Tabby and Amanda arguing about that once. I wasn't there, but I was told about it later by both of them and by Kyle that Amanda didn't want Tabby to take rides with Kyle on his crotch rocket.
How come?
Well, probably because of the closeness of it. I mean, you got a person riding in back has to pretty much be right up against the other person. Or I'm not sure if it was Tabby or Kyle said something that Amanda thought that Tabby might be reaching around and playing with Kyle with his genitals. And Kyle, when he told me about it, he said, I think it might have been Kyle that told me that Amanda said that, but he denied it. Tabby denied it. And they both just, Amanda was, just being jealous that, that when they go out, she's at work and, inaudible. It just upset her. And she went off on them and came up with some stupid excuse to keep them from hanging out. I guess. I don't really know.
Okay, I'm going to go off the record just for a second. Okay, we are back on the record again. So, you now have gone by Kyle's and you have asked him a question. And so then what the question being, did you see her the night before? And he said he had taken her up to the BP. Now, did he say how he took her up there? Had he driven?
He didn't, but I can't, or hang on. He did, but I can't recall what he said. The only two things he could have drove was his father or his motorcycle, and I'm not sure which he said.
So then you come back home, you make a missing persons report, and then what?
Then I wait up at my mom's.
Now wait, you've still got to make a missing persons report at 6 o'clock, right?
Something like that.
6 or 6:30 Wednesday night, then what?
Well, after the missing person report?
Well, I mean Thursday night, right after the missing persons report at 6:30. What did you do after the missing persons report?
I go to my mom's.
I thought you said you woke up at your mom's.
No, I go to my mom's.
Okay.
I stayed up there with her all night and slept on a couch that night. Talked to Mark Tate, Buffy a couple times, I believe. And I believe that's it.
Is there any reasons why you didn't go out looking for her?
Because I wouldn't know where to start.
And that's the only reason?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I stayed at home with Drake and my mom and waited to hear something.
All right, so then it's now Friday morning and you wake up and then what? What time did you get up?
I don't know.
What time did you go to bed?
Probably about midnight. I probably woke up about 8:30 or so because I was asleep on my mother's couch and Drake would have been up playing and woke me up, I think. And I just continued to stay at my mom's to wait and hear something from somebody or hear from Tabby.
Tape ends. Okay, we will go back on record here. All right. Well, Mike, we are back on record again. And what we were talking about is on Thursday, you get back from school and fill out a missing persons report, went to your mother's, slept on the couch, went to bed about midnight, woke up at about 8:30 on Friday. Now, what was going on at your mother's house from, say, 6:30 until noon? You guys just watch a little TV or?
Try to come up with an idea between the two of us as to where she might be.
What kind of things were you talking about?
Just that, one, it didn't make sense that Tabby would tell us one thing and then Kyle turn around and tell us something different. We didn't know who to believe.
What did Kyle say that was different?
Well, that what Tabby had said about Amanda's grandmother being in the hospital by life-threatening surgery, whatever. Amanda said it was just knee surgery, that it wasn't life-threatening and that she was out already. And that Kyle said he had picked her up to take her to the hospital and picked her up. And
he said he picked her up to take her to the hospital?
No, he said he didn't come to pick her up to take her to the hospital. He said He didn't talk to her until about later that evening after it was 6:30 when Tabby left, and that's what my mom told me.
So what time did Kyle say he picked her up?
He said he picked her up. It was dark, so I'd have to say.
I mean, do you remember? It's not like what you have to say.
Well, I want to say between 8 and 9 because I'm not really sure of what he actually said, what time he picked her up.
But he said it was dark.
It was dark because he said it wasn't at 6:30 when Tabby had said that he had picked her up, but that it was later that night, so it was dark. I'm sure he said somewhere around 8 or 9 that he came to pick her up to take her to VP to meet Liz. He didn't say to meet Liz, but he said to meet some dyke.
Okay, now you're saying I hear to, in fact, since I have not, I just want to make sure that you have chance to say very clearly what he said to you. So I'll ask you just to repeat exactly what he said to you when he said he took her to VP to meet a dyke. Did you ask him what time it was?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I don't remember the inaudible.
What is this business about? It was dark and he said it was later.
I told him what my mother told me.
Which was what?
What Tabby had said about Amanda wanted Tabby to be there with her in the hospital while her grandmother had surgery.
Right.
My mom said that Tabby dropped Drake off with her about 6:30 or so and then left.
And you told Kyle that?
Yes, I did. He said that he didn't pick her up to take her to the hospital and that Amanda had said that her grandmother just had knee surgery and that was it. And she had called Tabby and told her about it. And Kyle said he didn't see Tabby until later that night when he stopped and picked her up to take her to VP.
Okay, so he's saying, I am going to attempt to tell you what I wrote down that you said before, okay? I asked her what he said. He said he had taken her to VP to meet some dyke. Then we get into who's a dyke. Elizabeth Balser, remember talking about that? Okay, now are you telling me that he told you he did not pick her up from her house, he just saw her on the street somewhere?
I'm not sure.
Then what are you saying he did? He said.
I'm not sure if he picked her up at the house or picked her up when he'd seen her walking or whatever.
Did he specifically give you a time?
All he said was that he's seen her later that night. I think he gave me the time, but I don't know what it would be.
What does dark have to do with it?
That's just a time. That's how I'm figuring it to be 8 or 9 when he picked her up.
It was just that time. I'm not following you.
He said later that night, and later that night to me means dark. And I'm sure he said what time he picked her up. So by saying later that night, I'm just trying to remember what time he told me. He picked her up by being dark. Later that night. Being dark, I'm very near 9.
Let me ask you this, yes or no question. Did he tell you that he picked her up from her house?
No.
So he just said to you then that he had taken her to VP later that night later at night.
Correct.
And he used the word later at night.
Yeah.
Or he used the word dark, or a time of which of the three was it?
He used a time.
Okay.
But I can't remember what time he told me.
And the time that he used, whatever time it was in your mind, you associated that with darkness.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right. Because my mother's saying she left at 6:30. He's saying it was sometime after that. And so.
So the two of you are talking, and you're saying that you're getting different messages from them than what Tabby had suggested. Is what you know was the time Tabby left. Is that what you're saying?
Can you say that one more time?
You and your mother are talking.
Right.
This is Thursday night. I asked what was going on between Thursday night at 6:30 when you gave the police report.
All right.
And when you went to bed.
Okay.
This is my question. You said you and your mother were talking. I said, what about? And you said about what you know was a fact and that they had said which was different.
Right.
Kyle said something I had asked you. What did Kyle say?
Right.
And so that is what we have been talking about the last 5 minutes.
Right.
So what else were you talking about?
Just trying to think about who to call to find out if she might be there at somebody else's house or somewhere to try and figure out where she might be.
Who did you call?
I believe we talked to Mark and Buffy quite a few times. I believe I called Stacy Johnson to see if she might know.
Why would she know?
Because she's one of Tabby's close friends. They talked I think they talked on a weekly basis, one day a week to catch up, things like that.
What did Stacy tell you?
That she hadn't seen or talked to her since the week before, I believe.
Okay.
I think we might have called Jamie Hamilton. I'm not real sure on that. I'm not for sure who else I called that night.
Anybody come over to your house that night?
No.
Police ever come by and ask you any questions?
I don't think they did, not until sometime a couple days, maybe a couple weeks after that they actually came to the house.
A couple days or a couple weeks?
Yeah.
Why would they have came a couple weeks later?
They come to run tests on my house to see if there was any evidence or anything like that.
Okay.
I think that wasn't until I'd say December that they came for that.
Okay, so Thursday night you were talking inaudible, and Friday morning you got up, and what did you do?
Sat there. I pretty much just sat there not knowing what to do. I'm confused.
So do you think you stayed at home all day Friday?
Yeah, I believe I did.
Do you remember anybody you talked to on the phone then?
Not Friday, no.
Do you have a cell phone?
Yes, I do.
And what's the number of your cell phone?
My current one is 6.
No, what was it then?
What was it then? I could call and find out.
Okay, call who?
I could call my mom right now and find out what my old phone number was.
Well, let's do that after we get done, okay? Okay, Jay Rich. Miss Tharp is probably here if we stop this and get her in here. Okay, why don't we do that and then you can go call your mom. Tape stopped. Jay Rich. Okay, the continuation of the deposition of Michael Raines. Present in the room is Michael Raines, myself, Jay Rich, and Bob Alden, attorney for Elizabeth Balser. Mr. Alden. Michael, you know you're still under oath, right?
Correct.
Okay, let's just go back a little bit. All I had is to ask you some questions I already asked you. Then we will pick up from there, okay?
All right.
First of all, you indicated you went over to Neff's house the next day when you were going to work. Is that correct?
I was on my way to school.
On your way to school. I mean, not work, school. Now, had you called him the night before?
No.
Do you know of anybody that tried to reach him the night before?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Were you aware of the fact that his telephone had been disconnected or his number had been changed?
Yes, that was about a week to a week and a half after the Saturday that Tabby's body was found, that I knew that.
Are you sure about that?
Something like that.
Okay.
I know it had to been at least a week before I found out, at least a week. that I found out that his number had been changed.
How do you know it was at least a week?
I tried calling for something. I don't remember what it was. But when I called, I got wrong number. And I tried calling his mom to see why I couldn't get a hold of him. And then I went up to see my mom, and she had said that his number had been changed. So
how do you know it hadn't been changed the week before?
I didn't know. I hadn't contacted him except for like the week after.
So you went to talk to him on Thursday on the way to school, and then you never tried to reach him again for a whole nother week?
Right.
You also indicated, I think, that he had told you that he had taken some dyke up to the VP.
No.
Excuse me, that he had taken Tabby up to the VP to meet some dyke.
Right.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you remember him also telling you that he had driven her home before and took to drop your son off before he took her back to the VP?
I don't remember him saying that.
Now, you gave a statement on October the 5th to Gary Stout. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember giving it.
Okay, and what we are going to do is you are going to read it, okay?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, we are going to go off the record for just a second, okay? And I want you to read a certain portion of your statement.
Okay.
Okay, tape off. Okay, we are back on the record again. Michael, while we were off the record, I gave you a chance to read page 11, 12, 13, and page 25 of the statement you gave to Detective Stout on October the 5th.
Correct.
And did you have a chance to do that?
Yes, I did.
After reading that statement, does that refresh your recollection as to
Yes, it does.
what you told Detective Stout? So once again, I'll ask you the question. When you went to his house on your way to school on Thursday, October the 3rd, you had a conversation with Kyle Neff about whether he had seen Tabby. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What is it that he told you?
He told me that he had taken her home and specified where they had met when he had picked her up and taken her home and then taken her up to VP.
Okay, so by him saying he took her home and he took her up there, he didn't say whether he waited for her to come out or not, but he did indicate that he took her home as well as he took her to the VP. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, you have also indicated that he told you that he took her to the VP, and that then I think you said he thought it was a male, a female he mentioned, and his words, a dyke, and then Gary Stout. And then in your statement, you had said to me that in your mind, Elizabeth came to your mind. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But at the statement immediately after, you said you thought it was a female. He mentioned in his words, a dyke. Gary Stout, the very next sentence, said a dyke, not trying to put any names in your head, but did he ever say the name Elizabeth? Okay. Now that's pretty fast. So
that particular?
Did Stout put the name in your head?
No. The way I answered those questions, I was on the basis that Gary was thinking that Kyle had said it first. When Kyle had mentioned a dyke, and it ran through my head, who could Tabby be meeting? And that would fall into the criteria. And the only person I could think of was Elizabeth Balser. I said Elizabeth Balser, and Kyle was like, yeah, that might be who it is. But in my statement, he asked if Kyle ever said that name, Elizabeth Balser. And, saying it like Kyle said it first, well, that's the way it came to me.
Well, here's the way the statement goes. You said he thought it was a female. He mentioned in his word a dyke. Then Gary Stout, next question, only seconds after he asked, after you answered, he said a dyke. Not trying to put any names in your head, but did he ever say the name Elizabeth? And your answer was no. Did he ever say the name Balser? And your answer was no. So you answer to him that he never acknowledged Elizabeth Balser ever.
Well, like I said,
Now you're telling me under oath that you said you think it could have been Elizabeth, and then you said, yeah, it could have been Elizabeth.
yeah, I told Gary that
Why did you say no in your statement?
because I was under the impression that Gary,
Did he ever say the name Elizabeth? No. Did he ever say the name Balser? No.
I was under the impression that Gary was asking if Kyle was the one who mentioned it first. He did mention it. He went on to those two questions, and like within seconds, I answered, not thinking that he would come back with, well, did you mention her name? And then he replied or anything like that. But he just, but he didn't. He just moved on as far as I'm aware.
You know other lesbians in this town.
A few.
Who are they?
Well, my sister, for one,
Who's that?
Sandy Graves.
Who else?
Let me think. Lesbians that I know now or knew back then.
Back then.
There's a few that my sister went to high school with. I don't know their names, but I know of them. In fact, there's only a few, probably not even more than 5 that I know of.
Okay, but there were 5 people that your sister had knowledge of or were classmates.
Yeah, there was Ruth that I know of, and my sister, and then 3 other people that someone knew or my sister knew that were.
Did Tabby know them?
No, not that I'm aware. I didn't. I don't know if Tabby knew any of my sister's friends or not.
Did Tabby know any lesbians that you didn't know?
She might have.
Okay, all right. Now let's go back also then to when you came home from school that day. You told the police that when you came home, you found a pack of what you thought might have been Newports.
Yes, they were Newports.
Now, in your statement, you said you thought that they might be. Now, do you know for a fact whether they were or were not?
They were. I went back and got them for the police after that day.
So you gave the package to the police?
Yeah.
Who did you give it to?
I believe it got handed to Gordon Taco or Gary Stout. I didn't hand it to them personally. It was, I want to say it was Saturday or possibly Sunday, and me and my friend Paul Vasquez went back to the house, and he grabbed a Ziploc bag and picked them up that way.
Who did?
Paul did. He, like, stuck his hand in the bag the reverse way, grabbed them, and wrapped the bag around it so he didn't actually touch it. And then he took it up to the police station because they asked for it. They asked that we bring that back to them.
Okay.
That's the last I know of that bag. But they were Newports.
All right. Now, did you also notice whether or not there were any Newport cigarette butts in the ashtray?
No, I didn't notice. I didn't look.
Did Tabby smoke?
Yes, she did.
What kind of cigarettes did Tabby smoke?
Marlboro Lights.
Now, do Newports have a brown or a white filter?
A brown filter.
And do Marlboro Lights have a brown or a white filter?
A white filter.
Do you smoke?
At the time, I was smoking Camels.
Do they have a brown or a white filter?
They have a brown filter.
So the Newports would have had a white filter, or I mean a brown filter, excuse me.
Do what?
The Newports had a brown filter, correct?
Correct.
And your cigarettes had a brown filter.
Right.
Okay.
Actually, I was switching between Camel and Marlboro depending on what was on sale.
But you never checked the butts in the ashtray to see whether they were your cigarettes or some others?
No.
Let's go back to where we were when we stopped the tape yesterday, before we had to leave. You went and got a telephone number from your mother, is that correct?
Yes.
And the telephone number that you thought was your cell phone telephone number, did you know what it is now?
It was.
Okay. Do you know if anybody obtained cell telephone records from that?
I believe Gary Stout did. I think he had all my phone records, home phone and mobile phone.
Did you give them to him, or like I keep when I have a cell telephone, I keep every month, like I pay the bill, tear it off, but I put my record in a slot there. Did you provide him with your old records, or do you know if he had them subpoenaed?
I think he subpoenaed for it. I don't remember giving them to him myself at the time. He asked me, and I wasn't very I was in a state of confusion. So when he asked me for something, I just looked at my mom and was like, "Can he do that?" She would be like, "Yeah." So I don't know
Okay.
if she gave them to him or if he subpoenaed for them.
Did you and Tabby keep a file for bills that you paid?
Not really. We'd get a bill and she would put it in the drawer and I wouldn't see it ever again.
Did you have a checking account?
Yes.
All right, let's go back then to where we left off again. You gave us the telephone number, and now you said you stayed home all day on Friday. Now it's Friday night. What did you do on Friday night? Do you remember?
Like, are you talking about the whole Friday or?
Yeah, you said you stayed home all day Friday.
I was probably still at home all Friday night.
Do you remember doing anything as far as contacting people?
No, I don't.
Looking for Tabby?
I don't remember it.
Okay, now it's Saturday.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this question, just to refresh your recollection. Do you remember talking with Kelly Hamilton?
Jamie's mom?
Uh-huh.
What day?
On Friday.
I don't remember talking to her.
Do you remember making arrangements to go with Jamie Hamilton and her mother on Saturday to look around?
I remember the Saturday. We did do it, but I don't remember making arrangements for it.
Okay.
I don't remember much of that whole week, really.
Okay.
I remember.
Were you on any medication?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. On the Saturday, is that the first time then that you had left the house for a few days when you left it then?
That I can remember, yes.
For Tabby, do you know what time you left?
No, I don't.
Do you remember where you went?
We went a few places. I can't tell you the specific locations, but there's a wooded area near Kempton that we went and searched. Jamie and her mom went to a few like burnt down houses, like abandoned houses that had dark overgrown grass and dark places and stuff. And we went and checked them. We went and checked the ditch by Country Living. And we were on our way to the park when we pulled past the police station uptown and seen a whole group of people. And we pulled up and we asked them what was going on, and they said they found a body. So that's when I pulled in and waited for them to let us know what they found.
Okay, do you remember anybody ever suggesting before you got to the police station that maybe the next place you should go was to go to the park?
No.
Do you remember telling anybody that you didn't want to go to the park?
No.
Is it that?
I know for a fact I didn't tell anybody I didn't want to go to the park.
Okay.
If they would have suggested it, I would have went.
So it's not a matter of you just not remembering whether you said it or not. You know for a fact.
Yeah.
You absolutely deny that you ever said to anybody, I don't want to go to the park.
Right.
Or, no, I don't want to go to the park, take me home or whatever.
Right. I never said that. I was like, let's look places. I don't know where to start. And somebody said, let's start in the park.
And so to your knowledge, specifically for a fact, you're saying if anyone would have suggested to go to the park, you would have gone to the park.
Yes.
So you're saying nobody ever suggested going to the park. Is that correct?
Not to start with, no.
Okay.
Like I said, we were on our way to the park for country living when we stopped at the police station. So we were on our way there.
So you're saying there was a suggestion that you go to the park and you were willing to go to the park.
Yes, I was on my way there.
End of tape. We are back on the record again. When you stopped by the police station, you were in the car with who?
I was in the car with Jamie Hamilton and her mom.
And what happens?
We asked what was going on. Whoever came up to the car, I don't remember who it was, but they said the police had found a body in the park, or that some kid had found some body in the park. And the police were out there, and they wanted everybody to wait at the station until they came back with the who it might be.
And that was at about what time?
It was dusk. It's the best I can do. I don't remember the exact time.
Did you have your cell phone with you while you were riding around?
I believe I did.
Did you have any private conversations with anybody on your cell phone while you and Kelly Hamilton and Jamie Hamilton were out driving around looking for Tabby's body on Saturday afternoon?
Not that I can remember. I don't believe I did, but I only recall bits and pieces of the events of that week.
So when did you find out that they had found Tabby's body?
I think we waited there for anywhere from a half hour to an hour, waiting on someone to show up and tell us what was going on. And that's when I was shown her wedding rings. That's when I found out.
And what effect did that have on you?
I went hysterical. I couldn't believe that's who it was. I couldn't believe she was dead. I stood up and started crying and ran out of the police station just bawling.
Where did you go?
Across the street and got beside Richter Chiropractor. I was just going to head home because I didn't want anyone to see me, not being able to control myself. I was just tears everywhere. I couldn't stop sobbing. I couldn't even stand up really.
Okay, where did you go?
From there, I got in the car with, I want to say, Moses. He pulled up in his cruiser, got in the passenger seat, and we drove to the back of the police station. And then I got out of the car and just sat on the ground leaning up against his car and sobbed for like 15 or 20 minutes.
So you left the police station and you went where?
I was right beside Richter Chiropractor.
You were by yourself?
Yeah. My friend was like steps behind me.
Who's your friend?
Gene Long.
And then while you were there is when Moses picked you up?
Yeah.
Did he pick Gene Long up too?
I believe Gene walked back. I think walked back.
And then why did Moses pick you up?
Because they didn't know why I left. Like, I didn't say nothing. I just got up, started crying, and left.
So then you came back and you were sitting next to his cruiser?
Yeah, I was sitting on the ground next to his cruiser, just bawling my eyes out. Deep, like really deep sobs. I could barely breathe. I was crying so hard. Gene and Moses were trying to calm me down, trying to get me to smoke a cigarette because, like, they knew I needed to stay inside for a little bit or whatever. And they, like, Gene knows me, and he has never ever seen me cry except for then. And he didn't know what to do. He just knew that I'm not the person to cry. And for me to be crying, he knew I didn't want nobody to see me like that. So Moses and Gene just sat out there with me until I had no more tears running.
Okay, and then what?
We went back inside and cried more with Tabby's mom, my stepdad, my sisters, Tabby's sister and brother, Just about everybody was crying. Just stayed in the police station lobby with everybody crying.
And then what?
I think then we waited around. Each person took their turn talking to Gary, giving a statement or something like that. I think when everything was finally over that night, I went to Paul the Vasquez house and stayed the night.
All right, then why did you go to Paul's house?
I had heard from someone that it was over drugs, and someone had used my name and Tabby's name, or something like that, and they were coming for me. I didn't know how much faith to put into that, because at the time, I still didn't know why Tabby was killed, and was just scared. I didn't want to be home by myself. I knew that Paul, I mean, he's had hard times in his life, and he didn't know exactly what I was going through, but he knew the loss I was going through. So he was one to somebody I knew I could talk to about it. Just tell him everything I felt, how bad it felt. I mean, if I wanted, I could have sat there and cried, and he would have sat there with me, you know? We wouldn't have to say nothing to each other.
So you didn't think your mother would do that for you?
I did, but she knew the connection that me and Paul had.
Okay, back on the record. Okay.
She knew the connection I had with Paul and Jean. We were pretty much brothers, even though we weren't actually related by blood. And she figured if I needed to talk or wanted to talk, I would probably be willing to talk to Paul because it's easier to talk to a sibling than it is to talk to a parent.
How tight were you to Jean at that point in time?
At that point in time, actually, let's see, we weren't really that close. At that particular time, neither were me and Paul really. At the time, we all had our own families. We had to worry about bills, so we were just working, going to sleep, working, going to sleep, that kind of thing.
But I mean, you said Jean was with you when you left the police station.
Right.
As if he was comforting you. Is that right?
Yeah, he knew exactly what it was going to do before I did it. I mean, he knew like as soon as I stood up. Actually, it was outside the room we were in when we were told. I don't know the name of it.
Hadn't you and he had some kind of an argument just not too long before that?
A while before that.
And had you made up?
Yeah.
Oh, you had?
Yeah, I believe we did. If not, it was nothing to concern ourselves with at that particular point because, I mean, our argument was petty.
So who was at Paul's house when you went there?
Who was at Paul's house?
Uh-huh.
Paul, me, and Paul when I got there.
Anybody else then during the course of the evening?
During the course of the evening, I want to say somebody else was there, but I can't recall who. I want to say Ashley Bullard, but that doesn't sound right to me.
And what did you do the rest of the night?
We pretty much talked about everything.
You and Paul did?
Yeah. About how, I didn't know what I'd do without her. If I needed anything, I could always go to him.
When did you have this conversation with him? I mean, how soon? First of all, what time did you get to his house?
It was after midnight.
What did you do from dusk until midnight?
Waited at the police station until they called me in to talk to me. I was one of the last few to be talked to.
Okay, and so you talked to them starting at about 10 o'clock and you got finished about midnight, you're saying?
Something like that, probably.
You went out to Paul's trailer?
Yes.
And you don't remember who all was out there with him, but there was some people or not?
I'm thinking there was maybe one person that showed up.
What time did you go to bed?
I don't think I did that night.
You didn't think you were able to sleep?
No.
Do you remember playing video games on a computer?
Yes, I do. I was getting to that. Me and Paul talked just about everything, and then I was finally able to just sit there without crying. I went and got on his computer and got on the PlayStation game console, one of the two, just trying to make it through the rest of the night.
Okay, and so you think you just played on the computer all night?
I think I did, yeah.
And what happened the next day?
I don't remember. All I remember was that I was at Paul's every day and every night until the night before on October 8th. That night I went home so I could clean up and be ready the next morning when we went to Tabby's funeral.
Okay, so Sunday was the 6th, Monday was the 7th. You went home the night of the 7th, or did you go home the night of the 8th?
The night of the 8th.
Well, what day was the date of Tabby's funeral?
The 9th.
And were you at was there a calling or showing before the actual?
Not an actual showing, it was a closed casket.
Right.
I was there.
And how were you feeling at that time?
Lost. I didn't know what to do. People talked to me and I would hear them, but I didn't know what they said. I broke down in tears a lot of times.
Do you remember anyone you were talking to when you broke down in tears?
Well, Jean was either right behind me or right beside me every time. And then Paul was there a couple times when I broke down. And then Corey was also around a few times when I broke down.
Corey?
Sanders.
Okay. J. Rich. Sanders.
Yes.
Mr. Alden. All right. And then when was the graveside service?
The time?
What day?
The day it was the 9th. What day?
Same. Go ahead.
What day it was the 9th?
Same day. It took place on the same day?
Everything was on the 9th.
Okay. How did you handle yourself then?
I pretty much at that time didn't have any tears to actually cry, but I was just kind of standing there sobbing. And then I waited until everybody else left, and I just stood there with my hand on the tombstone for a good 15, 20, 30 minutes.
What did you do after that?
I believe I was with Jean or Paul. One of them two was still with me, but I went home.
Did you ask anybody to come over to your house?
No, I didn't. Probably what you're referring to is inaudible. Good night. She had talked to me right before I took off from the cemetery. She'd asked if we could talk sometime, and I was like, yeah, I'll be home tonight. I'll be home every night. You know, just come over whenever you want to. Just call when you come over. And she didn't come over until the next night. And all we did was talk.
But she did come over the next night.
The following night on the 10th.
And then did you ever follow up with her and continue to see her?
I talked to her a couple times after that, yeah.
Did you ever go to her house?
Yeah.
And why did you stop going over to her house?
Because I couldn't never get a hold of her.
Why couldn't you get a hold of her?
She was either at work or school or off with her boyfriend.
Did she ever tell you she wanted you to continue to see her, or did anybody else ever tell you that?
No.
So who were you spending your time with then?
What do you mean?
Well, were you working?
No.
Going to school?
No, I had to leave both.
So now you have nothing to do all day.
Yeah.
It's now the say the 10th of October on into October. Who did you spend your time with?
If Corey, Paul, or Jean wasn't around, I sat in the corner of my house.
You sat there by yourself?
Uh-huh. No TV, no music. Just sat there in the corner. I didn't know what to do.
Did you ever seek any counseling?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
I want to say it was in November.
Do you remember when?
No, I don't. I don't remember the exact month or times or anything like that.
Up until you sought counseling, did you continue just to stay inside your house?
Pretty much.
You say pretty much. What else were you doing in the meantime?
Pretty much means that I can't remember what I did in the meantime.
Well, were you seeing any girls? Were you partying?
Not in October.
You were not partying in October.
No. Like the last weekend.
The last week of October you were?
Yeah.
Where were you partying?
I don't remember. I got drunk.
1 night or 2 weeks, or how long were you dry?
I got drunk one night. That's the night I remember.
Where were you?
My house.
So when you weren't drunk that one night, you said the last week you were partying. Who were you partying with?
Corey was there, I'm pretty sure of that.
Was this all at your house?
Do what?
Was all your partying done at your house?
Yeah.
Just with, when you say you partying, what do you mean?
Drinking.
So you were drinking at your house with your guy friends?
Yeah. Well, Corey was there, I know. The drinking night, it was just me and Corey.
Were you seeing any girls within 2 weeks or 3 weeks after Tabby died?
Let's see. Yeah, you're talking about Michelle and that other girl from Muncie.
Amanda Campbell.
That could be it.
So how do you know I'm talking about them?
Because I had to talk to Gary about it.
Okay, so what about that?
What about it?
Well, tell me, were you seeing them or were you not seeing them?
Me and Corey met them up in Newcastle, and they said they didn't have nothing to do. So we were like, let's go back to our house. We'll listen to music, and we'll teach you how to do a light show and twirl.
Do a light show?
Yeah, it's what you do at a rave. They're not underground parties anymore, but you listen to techno. Their dance style is called liquid. You get photons or LED lights and just spin them around in the dark. And it's like, I don't know, like a movie theater with a 3D or something. And then you tie them to a string, and that's what's called twirling.
How many days were you with them?
Seen them in person twice, talked to them once on the phone.
Okay, first of all, who set this deal up?
What do you mean?
Who set it up? Did you know these girls previously?
I knew them the day before they came over.
Where did you meet them?
Newcastle.
Who knew them in Newcastle?
Nobody. We just met them.
Why were you in Newcastle?
We were cruising.
You and Corey?
Yes.
Looking for girls?
No.
Where had you been before Newcastle? Did you just go from Tipton to Newcastle?
That night?
I don't know. You tell me.
I mean,
how did you end up in Newcastle? When did you leave?
We go to Newcastle from time to time to check out the cars, the car clubs they got.
When was the last time you'd been to Newcastle before October, the end of October?
At least a year.
So you end up in Newcastle and you drove there from Tipton, is that correct?
Correct.
And you're driving around, and where do you see the girls?
They're in their car parked, and we pull up in the same parking lot.
Who's driving?
Corey would have been.
And you pull up and start a conversation with them?
Not right offhand. There was a whole group of people, and we just started talking, and we ended up getting to talk to them.
A whole group of people in a parking lot?
Yeah.
So you just drove up and said, what's going on?
People were loitering, you know.
Just what's going on. So you weren't asking them where their cars were?
What do you mean?
Well, you said you went there to see cars or something.
Yeah, people deck out their cars, you know, make them look really nice for car shows or whatever, street racing. So we go for that kind of thing.
Okay.
And we don't go straight up and like go, hey, let me look at your car. Go up, mingle for a minute, and then we start talking about cars.
Okay, anyways, you meet these girls. Were they in a car?
Yes, they were.
Then tell me about how the conversations went that you suggested that they hook up with them.
Well, we talked the first night we met them, just talking, and Corey liked the one girl, Amanda Campbell. That's probably her name. He liked her. He got her phone number. So I was just being a wingman. So I got the other girl's number. So that way, if, you know, if the one called me trying to find him, you know, I could call her back, you know. It's the whole circle of phone tag, whatever. Corey wanted to go back up the following night. So we went up the next night and we had nothing to do. So Corey suggested we go back to my place so we could teach them how to dance.
So you drove them from Newcastle to Tipton.
Yes, Corey drove one girl, the girl's car with the girl he was liking, and then I drove his with the other girl, and I followed him home.
And did you spend the night at your house?
Yes.
And did you have sex with this Michelle Baldwin?
No, I didn't.
Did you have any kind of kissing type touching relationship with her that night?
Well, we kissed.
Now, did you know these girls were 17 years old?
At the time, no, I didn't.
How old did they say they were?
They didn't say.
Did you take them back to Newcastle?
The next morning, yes. No, we took them back to Muncie, where they were from. They didn't know how to get back, so we took them back.
What day did you take them back?
The day after they came to my house. It was probably a Sunday.
When you took them back, did you find out that they were not supposed to have been out all night?
After they had gotten home, they called and told us they were in trouble.
Did you ever see them again after that?
Yes, this summer I had seen them.
Did you see them after October, the rest of 2002?
No.
And so did they show up during the summer?
No, I seen her in Newcastle. She pulled up alongside me.
Did you guys get together that night?
No, she just started talking, and then I started talking, and then I told her I was on my way back home and I had to go.
Okay. Had you had a job, okay, so you were with the girls in late October, and then what was the next girl you started a relationship with?
It would have been Tara something from Kokomo.
And when was that?
Pretty much the first week of December, sometime within the first week of December.
And how long did you see her?
Me and Steve Jones went to her house often because we didn't have nothing else to do. Neither one of us was working, so we just went over there and watched movies and stuff.
Did you have a sexual relationship with her?
Yes, I did.
All right. And then you say you saw her how long period of time?
About a month.
How after that?
Jennifer
Who's supposed to be who after that?
Yeah. Jennifer Graham from Illinois.
So how did you meet her?
I was in Indy. I was invited to go drinking with some people, and I went and met her, talked all night with her, and then she gave me her phone number to call her because she had to go back home the next day.
So did you start a relationship with her?
Technically, no. We talked on the phone a lot.
Did you end up having sex with her?
A couple times, yeah, I did.
At your place?
Yes.
Where was she from?
Illinois.
So was she staying in Indy with somebody?
Okay, I think we're going to stop there. My eyes are going buggy.
Okay.
We got to page 59. So tomorrow we can do 60 through 96.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's like,
Everything's starting to run together.
uh-huh. What page did you say 69 is what we got to?
59.
59.
We're actually at the beginning of page 60.
Okay, so she just come to visit a friend. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right, everybody. We are going to end this live, and we will pick it up and do pages 60 through 96 in the next episode. We've read a lot today, so our eyes are going buggy. And we need a break from staring at these.
Yeah, considering how we've read 90 some pages already.
Right.
Between the three, between the three things we've read so far.
If you've heard anything, and you have anything to say about it or have any questions, put them in the comments below. We will keep watch over comments and try to answer questions. Hit that thumbs up button and like the video. And thank you all for watching.
Bye.
Have a good night. Day. Bye.